Hi, I'm Mark Ells, Town Manager in Barnstable, and I'm here to provide you with my weekly update of how we're progressing through the response to the COVID-19 situation here in Barnstable and um, on Cape Cod as well. We are still in the response mode to this, and as you know, our governor last week extended the closure of non-essential facilities and the stay-in-place order through May 18th. So the combination of that with the closure of our public schools and all schools through the end of the school year and the closure of daycare facilities through the end of June, and all of the other orders. And if you're interested in what those are, you can go on to our town website, COVID-19, right on the homepage, and you can take a look at that and other information relevant to this situation that we are working through. I want to focus today on talking about how we're going to get into recovery and back to normal. And I've been having many conversations with our communities, the families in our communities and residents here in Barnstable, the businesses in our community, and all of them have specific questions. Some I can answer and some I can't. Some my staff can answer and some they can't. So I think it's important that you know that and that you remain patient and that you continue to ask questions. And as good information becomes available, we'll share it with you and we'll do our best to answer any and all questions. We are trying to stay open in Barnstable. We are not looking to close facilities, outdoor or indoor. We are not looking to curtail activities in Barnstable unless we absolutely need to. One of the triggers for that is when our governor issues orders and directives statewide relevant to specific issues and areas of concern. As I just stated, he did extend that stay-in-place order and the closing of non-essential functions through the 18th of May. We do anticipate that could be continued. But in all practicality, we expect that many of the measures that he has put into place will go into summer months. And examples of that are that he closed schools through the end of the normal school year, which falls in the last weeks of June, closed daycares through the end of June, etc. So we know that we're not going to be able to return to what we were familiar with in the past. And we are planning to move forward so you can get back to your regular life, but it's going to be different. And it's going to be different here forward in the way that you see us provide programs and services. So we ask for your patience. We ask for you to ask us questions. And please, I said this in my first communication to you last week, that don't just run with information from a source that may not actually know the answer to the question. And many people do that. I'm not quite sure why they do it. But they do it. And so call, ask, we're open. You can reach us. People are answering the phones. People are out there providing service. We're just doing it a little bit differently than we have in the past. Getting a lot of calls right now about our facilities as we head into the nice weather. Our beaches are still open. We're one of the few communities in our state where we've kept our beaches open. And our citizens are adhering to the physical separation, guidelines that are federal and our state and locally. We are asking them to, and we greatly appreciate it. And it's why the beaches are still open. That hasn't occurred everywhere. Many people are emailing me about the closure of our recycling area. But the truth is, people were not separating properly in that area, and therefore we had to close it. Next on the list is, but I'll come back to beaches in a moment, was our golf courses. Many people have emailed me, called me, texted me, said, you shouldn't have closed the golf courses. We were properly socially distancing. Quite honestly, for the most part, we were, but the governor issued an order that deemed all golf courses in our state as non-essential. That was it. They were closed. Until the governor lifts that order, they'll remain closed. We do have a plan, though, as soon as it's lifted, to reopen them. So that's different than beaches. Beaches weren't included as non-essential. They're open space, much like many of our parks and other areas in town. So they didn't fall under that same requirement as a golf course would. And I've had many questions related to that. The next thing to open is going to be our marinas. And well, they're open as of tomorrow. And, our boat landings and our moorings, mooring fields, etc. Please comply with the social distancing and other requirements that you are all well aware of at this point and that we will share with you regularly. Please don't put us in the position where we have to shut down those facilities. I have the same request for our beaches. We are planning on opening our beaches. It'll be different this year. You're going to see a greater presence you're going to see lifeguards, and you're going to see all of our normal crews out there at the beaches. It's still unknown whether we can open our bathrooms or not. And we will have to watch how we progress through this to see if we can open our bathrooms. If we can't, we'll have bounce houses at our beaches so that people can certainly use facilities. But and we will communicate with you that might be a challenge for us this season. And especially when people come from other places in the country where they may have different governors with different requirements. So please know that we'll open up everything we can, but you're going to have to adhere to social distancing. I've been a frequent visitor to our beaches for the entire time that I've lived on Cape Cod. Going on 40 years at this point. And I go to the beach regularly. It's one of the reasons why we all come here. I also observe people and where they sit and how they sit. You're not going to be able to do that this year. You're going to have to spread out. If you want to get up by the water, you better get there early. We're going to have more police on the beach. We're going to have more staff on the beach. We're going to ask people to socially distance. And if they don't, we're going to ask them to leave. And if cumulatively we can't properly socially distance, then we're going to have to close the beaches. So we're going to go into it. We think we can do this. We have plenty of square footage so that if people are just careful about separating, then this should work. But if people are just adamant about doing it the way that they've always done it in the past, which kind of crowds up around our lifeguard stands from the high water line back, maybe a half to a third of the beach, and then everything else is wide open, that's not going to work this year. And we are not going to be able to allow it. So just know that, and we just ask you to work with us. I know it's difficult, but we don't want to be in a situation. I'm reading today about what California is contemplating. They opened them and now they're going to close them. We want to open them. We want to keep them open. So just know that. I've already talked about golf courses and marinas. Our recreation programs this summer. We are doing everything we can to answer. Many parents in our community are asking, how are you going to run your summer leisure program? Those programs, it's a 6 to 8 week program where the kids go to their favorite school or community center, and they spend their days there during the week. It fills up within hours of us opening up these programs. There are not enough slots for the kids who want to go, even though we ultimately try to make accommodations and get as many in there as we can. We still don't have an answer on whether we will be able to do that and how we will be able to do that. Our schools are closed. Daycare cares across the state are closed through the end of June. So I doubt that whatever we do will be allowed to commence, prior to the end of June, beginning of July. That does coincide with when we normally do it. We haven't allowed registration. That's what's really triggered the question here. I've had people calling me saying, Mark, usually I'm able to register by now. No, we haven't allowed that. We're going to be communicating with you about that. But I want to know first how we're going to do this, how we're going to do it. If everything opens up after May 18th, that makes it a lot easier. But if it doesn't, and there's a good chance it won't, how do we do it? How do we not just say, oh, forget it, we're not going to do this? How do we actually still provide this service in a way that allows for compliance with the various orders and directives that we receive, and is fun for our kids and safe for our kids to attend? So please be patient there. Answers are coming, but we don't control everything. I'm also meeting with our businesses. I'm talking with our restaurants and our retailers, our mall, our healthcare providers, our college, talking with our public transportation, both the buses and the ferries, and trying to understand their plans during response and then into recovery. I don't want to have a situation where we've got major entities giving very different messages. So we spend a lot of time communicating. We are actively working with our business community. Many of the requests I get there are more inquiries or statements with assumptions that the town has authority to supersede the orders of the governor. We do not, and we will not. We're going to follow those orders. So it's really important, number one, to know what our governor said we have to do and know that we're going to comply with it. And then number two, when you're asking us, you have a question, ask it, please. And if you can't find anybody else, you can come to me. But certainly we have lots of different departments, and you know who they are for the most part. Reach out to them, ask your questions. But if you can't get an answer, come to me, and I'll get you the answer. But many times our business community is asking us questions that deviate from zoning, deviate from health code, deviate from licensing requirements. And in those cases, we are absolutely open to working with our residents and our businesses and our visitors on any and all issues. But we don't always have the authority to change those things. We can ask, we can look at the processes, we can look at temporary actions, just given the duration of this event, and see if we can make modifications. And we are absolutely open to that. But many times, people will come to me and say, well, why can't you just do this? Why can't you just let me use my parking lot for commercial use? Because there's zoning requirements, because there's building code and health code requirements, state requirements sometimes local, but it doesn't allow for a town manager, for example, and definitely not a department head, to say, yeah, we can waive those right now because of the situation. It doesn't. So just know that we're here, we're going to work through them. We are actively working through them. We're looking at how we can allow businesses to use more of their outdoor space, and trying to do that expeditiously because we know season is upon us here. And we will continue to work with you. But just know that we can't just change things when they're outside of our authority. And I think that all of you will understand that. Finally, getting to budget and programming. These are unprecedented times. This health and safety emergency that we began with this virus is worldwide, a state of emergency, state of national emergency, certainly an emergency here in the town of Barnstable. And we've organized and we've responded, and I am confident that we are managing it as well as it can be managed. It will have equal economic impacts on us, and the duration of those economic impacts could be much longer than the time we are in response to the health crisis. The economic crisis could be multiple fiscal years. So what have we done about that? We took immediate action. I mean, from an emergency response standpoint, we went into as we always do, a 4-step process. We created our emergency response center. Our police chief is the head of the emergency response center. And we progressed along those lines. We meet daily at 10:30 with all staff, both internal and fire department. And we talk through the logistics of day-by-day management of this issue. From a budgetary standpoint, the finance director and I, and assistant town manager, took under review the FY 2020 expenses and where we were and what our revenue projections are. And we began to immediately put in place controls relevant to hiring, relevant to expenditures, relevant to ongoing capital projects and contracting for those projects. And we are managing closing out FY 2020 in that manner. We do have challenges. We have challenges in some of our recreational activities like golf course and our youth and community center. But we will be able to manage certainly FY 2020 and close this fiscal year out, especially because we've put in place those controls. Moving into FY 2021, if you follow this process, you saw that I reduced the capital improvement program from 39 million to 12.2 million. That was in direct response to our concern that revenues will be significantly down in FY 21. So fiscal year for us is July 1 through June 30 of the following year. So our next fiscal year starts this July 1. So we reduced 2/3 of our capital budget. We are reducing our operating budget as well. And we do expect, to a certain degree, tax revenue collection to be down, but absolutely excise tax, absolutely revenue we bring in from fees. We definitely believe that permits and licenses will be down. So we have adjusted our budgets accordingly. It will have impact on the programs and the services that we offer. So just know that. It is town-wide, and every department is involved in this process and assuring that we will manage our operating budgets within the revenues that our community generates to offset those costs. We're very concerned that state aid won't be there for us this year. I'm sure you followed the news, but at the end of March, I believe we had about a 2.9% unemployment rate in Massachusetts. It's around 17% right now. And there are predictions that over the coming months, it could get significantly worse. Those are not good indicators. Gross domestic product is way off. It's one of the indicators as to how we're doing, no surprise. So there are many indicators that are telling us that we've got a tough fiscal year, probably 2 fiscal years at least, as we move out of response and into recovery. And a lot depends on whether everything reopens on May 18th, or by the summer, or by the fall, or by the end of the year. All of those variables are unknown at this point. I'll keep communicating with you step by step. Please feel comfortable to reach out and ask questions. Know that the way that we provide service here forward will not be what it was 3 months ago. We're moving to contactless service. We're going to do things different here forward, partly because we will have to, and partly because we've really proved to ourselves that we can, and in many cases, it's an effective means of providing services and programs. So know that it is going to be different. Be patient when you see the way we provide service. We are not selling beach stickers at the HYCC as a primary source of you getting your beach sticker this year. You have to do it by mail. Same with shellfish permits, same with your transfer station permit this year. And those are all coming, they're either due or coming due in the very near future. That will be true of many other aspects of what we do. And we are not going back to the way that we used to do it. So please be patient. We appreciate it. Please follow all proper precautions relevant to this COVID-19 to keep yourself safe. If at any time you're concerned, reach out to us as a small business, as a resident. Help us to inform our second homeowners as they arrive in the next 30 to 60 days. There is a requirement that if somebody comes into our state, that they self-quarantine for 14 days. And we need to, well, you're going to hear us say that over and over and over again to communicate. One last thing, our Board of Health did vote relevant to face masks. We've had a lot of questions about face masks and having a mandatory requirement. At this point, it is still advisory in our town. We are advising that people, when they go into stores or they work in stores, that they wear masks, but it is not mandatory at this point. So please be advised that it is not from a state level. It's not an order of our governor either. So I will keep you up to date. Wednesday, I'm going to do another recording with Wendy Northcross, the CEO from the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. And she and I are going to talk about what she sees occurring on the Cape and how it will impact here relevant to business and the many industries that we have here on Cape Cod. So thank you for listening. Reach out whenever you need to, and we will be there to try to answer your questions. Thank you.